Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for the first episode of The Penguin. This is a show follow-up for Matt Reeves' The Batman from 2022, obviously focusing on the rise of Oswald Cobblepot, or Os Cobb, as we know him in this show. This DC studio drama features Colin Farrell in the role as he comes back from the film and continues the epic crime saga from the original film. Uh, this show and this debut was fantastic. Just everything. This show just feels like an immediate follow up from the film, which I think is very cool. We don't get a lot of that stuff in these type of comic book sort of movies. I think that the cast is amazing. Colin Farrell was already a force to be reckoned with when he originally played the role in the film, and he's come back with vengeance. But I think Kristen Melody just coming in as Sophia Falcone, every scene that she was on, she stole the show. Like, she is so menacing. She's got such great delivery and just the presence on screen. It is fantastic stuff. I really love seeing different aspects of Gotham, the suburbs, some of the rich neighborhoods. We didn't get to see a lot of that during the film, so this show is doing a lot of the world building, and I think we are better for it. So yeah, let's talk more about this debut because it was very strong. As I mentioned, the show stars Colin Farrell as Oz Cobb, Kristen Melody as Sophia Falcone. We also have the great Clancy Brown as Salvatore Maroni, Michael Kelly as John Vitti. Once you see Michael Kelly, you'll know exactly who he is. Deidre O'Connell as Frances Cobb, that is Oz's mom, and introducing Renzi Feliz as Victor Aguilar, a character that we'll talk about in a minute. So I will be going into spoilers. I think that's the best way to kind of talk about this show because it's so rich, it's so full of storyline, and I think what the show really manages to deliver is what we want to see here: the rise of Oz through the underworld of Gotham after everything's been left in ruins, and how he's gonna have to manage through that, right? Because he's not a powerful man. He's not somebody that's already a kingpin of crime. He's just a cog in the wheel of this gang war between the Falcones and the Maronis and everything that's going on in Gotham. And he's got ambitions of his own, which I think is really well played out. This first episode gave me a lot of vibes of Training Day, which is a fantastic film that I love, and we'll get into some of those similarities there. But yeah, the interactions with the characters. Oh my goodness, there's so much to talk about. So let's get into it. So we begin with knowing, giving us this pretty much starts. There's a few shots that happen like at the end of the film, but this really starts a week after the film ended, right? Of the events that, you know, downtown being flooded because of everything that the Riddler set up. I will tell you up front, and we are in the spoiler section. The Batman does not make an appearance, and I don't think if the Batman will make an appearance, it will probably be towards the end of the season. Although I don't think the Batman is necessary, which it's not something you can do, right? The Batman is a classic character for a reason, and there's not a lot of rogues galleries that you could just take and make a story exactly about them without even including their or their main protagonist in the normal series, like the Batman would be here. But yeah, we start off with a really interesting. I'm gonna call it a cold opening because it does show up before the title card. We see Oz going back to the Iceberg Lounge, and Alberto Falcone. They have a meeting about the business. Now, Alberto is the son of Salvatore Falcone, who died in the film, um, and he's such a cocky little brat. The Alberto is that he pushes Oswald to the edge. He's he's there to remind Oswald that this is his empire, and Oswald's playing along for the most part until he pushes him right over the line. And this is where we see the true side of the Penguin, and that's what's really cool about the show. Um, Now, as Oz is trying to dispose of the body, some kids are trying to steal his ride, his purple car. You probably, I believe we saw it. I'm pretty sure we saw it in the film, but yeah, that purple car that he's driving around in, and they're trying to steal the rims. So he catches them. One of those kids, Victor Aguilar, is left behind, and he is the character that uh, Oz will be taking on a ride along, pretty much, to bring him into the fold, because he sees something in him, right? As he's about to maybe shoot Victor, Oz notices that he has a speech impediment, and that kind of maybe reminds him a little bit of his own disability. So there's something about this kid that Oswald finds relatable, maybe something that finds like maybe he deserves a chance, kind of like he himself got. I don't know. It's very well done. I think there's a lot of really cool. There's a car. They go on a car ride to get rid of the body. There's so much tension just throughout those scenes. I think the music score really comes in. One thing that's kind of funny, and I'll talk about it later, is some of the needle drops are great. They really bring a little bit of levity into the show, but they also show that there's a lot more to Oz than just this facade of a gangster that we know. And we also get to see that later on with some of the scenes with his mom. Um, I think Oz, he's taking this kid right along pretty much through to get rid of the body, to make his own alibi, like get all these things done. And I feel like he had been kind of testing him throughout, because there was a point where I believed that he was going to get rid of Victor at the end of the night. I guess in the morning when they finally got rid of the body. But Victor comes to the realization that he's got to step up, and that he's got to make his own case as to why Oswald shouldn't kill him. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that. There was a line that I wrote down that Oswald said, what that madman just did as they were driving through the city and seeing everything that happened. But in my head, I'm like, is he talking about the Riddler or is he talking about the Batman? Because they both had a big part. The way most people probably saw it was that the Riddler was a consequence of the Batman. Um, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out going forward, and how much of that affects the actions of the film. We know that other gangs are kind of testing the fences. We see a little bit of the operation that Oswald manages with producing these drops. That is the kind of drug of choice for the city. Some of the higher ups in the Falcone family call Oz to come in because they have plans. They don't know that Alberto is dead yet. But man, the probably one of the best scenes in the show. Christian Milioti coming in as Sofia Falcone, just standing over very menacingly, a little bit off frame. It's very well done. It's very like really cool camera work, where these two guys are telling Oswald, "We're shutting you down." Oswald obviously takes this idea that he took from Alberto about this new drug that they're bringing in. Sophia knows about it, so there's a whole cat and mouse kind of game with Sophia testing us throughout. There's a past there that we haven't really seen. I think Oz had something to do with Sophia ending up in Arkham. I think we're gonna see in the weeks ahead preview. We saw that we'll probably maybe go into depth a little bit into what that happened, what that was, but also some of Sophia's time um, in Arkham. And like I mentioned, uh, Christiane Milioti, every scene that she was in, my goodness, it was fantastic. It was just really, really well done, well performed. She's got such a look and a presence that it is incredible to see on the screen, and I just really, really enjoyed it. So all throughout this, we don't know if does Sophia know about Oz, what she did, the scene. Does she know? I think she suspects, but there's no way she can prove it. But sometimes, uh, when you're a high level person like that in a family, like you don't even need to prove it, right? Kind of what you say goes. Yeah, so very menacing. Definitely very interesting when people around or they go to a restaurant, people around them kind of recognize her or him or both. So they're both kind of social outcasts in this like high echelon of Gotham, because they do go to a fancy restaurant. So um, we then get to see another aspect of Oz, and this is something that's kind of from the comics, and we've seen it in other properties, but not at this level. First of all, we know that Oz is a fan of Dolly Parton because as they turn on one of his cars, 9 to 5 begins playing, but it's not like on the radio; it's on a CD, so we know that that's his CD of Dolly. But he goes to visit his mom. This is where we meet Frances Cobb, played by Deirdre O'Connell. She's great. uh, we do realize that she's dealing with something maybe like a disorder of the mind as she's getting older, which Oz is trying to help her manage. So he's definitely a mama's boy. That's a thing that's been known from the comics. But she's also the person driving that ambition in him because he was ready to run at that point, and she's the one that convinces him to stay there and kind of fight for everything that he's got and built on his own. So that's really well done. Oz finally brings Vic into the fold kind of fully, and he goes to visit Clancy Brown in another one of my favorite scenes. He is in prison, probably Blackgate. I don't think they mention where he is, but he is in prison. uh, Clancy Brown is Salvatore Maroni, who was the previous kind of like, uh, you know, Falcone took over his spot. But Clancy Brown is just a fantastic performer. I hope we get a little bit more out of him, even though he's in prison. It's probably going to be a little bit difficult to just kind of like figure out how to bring him into the fold. But I think it's going to be great. And Oz manages to kind of use all those things and put a plan in motion. We do realize that Sophia finally she just calls it. She calls out us on it on like knowing and maybe even killing Alberto. But Oz has figured out a plan around this. It's very well executed. Like I said, there's a lot of tension. Big torture scene, of course. And man, the prosthetics in for Colin Farrell look great because we spend a lot of time in the daylight here. So like there's a little bit more scrutiny. I think Matt Reeves' film was a little bit dark and shadowy, and because it was kind of a noir kind of detective story, it used a lot of those things to maybe hide some of the things, or maybe make it easier to all those prosthetics that Colin Farrell's wearing, that they would look even better on screen. So I think the show looks great, as I mentioned. The music, fantastic. It just works in every scene. Specifically, those scenes where you need that tension raised, that soundtrack in the background, just making things very, very. It really adds a lot to the end product. So, yeah. And then at the end, I love the end credits, or not? Yeah, I love the closing credits because they once again play Dolly Parton's "9 to 5." But man, oh man, there's so many twists and turns towards the end. Like there's a few little things that, like I said, Oz put this plan in motion to kind of prove his own innocence, and we don't know if it's going to work out or not. We don't know. I mean, at that point, so the tension is definitely there. So, really, really enjoy this episode. You guys know I'm a big fan of the Batman, both the film and the character in the comics. So like this was going to be right up my alley. I'm also a big fan of Colin Farrell. Shout out to Phone Booth. I love that. I love watching that film, and SWAT and all those. Like, yeah, I just think Colin Farrell's a great actor. But man, I think the MVP tonight though, Kristen Milotti, Sophia Falcone. My God, I can't wait to see what else they're going to do with this character, and how that's going to play out in this overall story of the rise to power for Oz Cobb, to where we know him in the comics as the Penguin. So, uh, if you have seen this episode, let me know, what did you think about it. And of course, stay tuned because we have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps. We'll be covering this show on a weekly basis, hopefully, time allowing. Most of these reviews should go out the next day. And you can watch this either on HBO if you still have cable. This will be playing on HBO multiple times throughout, like any of their prestige shows. I believe it'll eventually move to Sunday nights once Industry is over. But for now, it should be coming out on Thursday night as for the first few weeks. So I'll figure out how to shuffle that around in the channel. And yeah, also we re-released to celebrate. We released our review of the in-depth review and discussion of the Batman, where we had a special guest, my buddy Mike Rappin from the I Read Comic Books. You can check that out in the channel as well. So yeah, I'm so glad we are back in this Matt Reeves universe. So thanks for watching, everyone. Bye bye.